welcome back to Wrokdown. My special guest, and we've been waiting a very long time to get this man. Ross the Boss, tell us about Daddy Cool.
Daddy Cool, I gotta be quite frank here. Daddy Cool wouldn't have happened without LSD. Yeah, when I was off in England,
I'm liking it already.
you know, we were living in this huge house, sort of rundown mansion down in Surrey, and it was fantastic out in the countryside and everything. We played a club, I think it was the Revolution Club one night. It was a pretty hip club in London, and these guys came up to us and said, "Oh, we, you know, so and so and so and so," and they had suits on, right? But they had kind of long hair, and they're American, and they said, "Oh, you know, we really like what you're doing, you know, so we'd like to, part of our trip around the world, we're handing out LSD to everybody, you know." So I'm going, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." So come on down to the mansion. So it turned out they were these guys from Laguna Beach who'd been off in India, Nepal, and surfers from Laguna Beach who lived in this commune out the back called the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. There was all this acid that somebody was making, and so part of their trip was like, you know, wherever they'd go, they'd hand it out because they really believed that acid was a great thing to give people, and they were smuggling these surfboards packed with hash back to the community, and you know, going, "Oh, okay, fine." So they come down to the place. We get there the next day, and it turns out taking their suits off by then, you know, because we thought they might be FBI or something. So we're going, and so we all dropped some acid. Next thing you know, boom, boom. So at that time, I was getting more in touch with my kind of inner child, and going and really starting to enjoy the old music again. You know, I'd done a lot of experimenting and stuff. So like, I was getting into old, and I found this whole area that I wasn't familiar with, which was like doo-wop music. I'd heard a little bit, but there was all this early 50s fantastic doo-wop music. So by the time I got back to Australia, I was kind of really into that, and I still had my experimental side, and Mike Rudd by that time had formed Spectrum, and he was playing these underground dances at TF Much Ballroom in Cathedral Hall in Brunswick Street, which is now called Catholic Hall. And so he introduced me to the people who were running those a new agency for alternative stuff called Let It Be. And they were pretty cool people, and they said, yeah. I said, "What do you want to do?" And they said, "Well, I've got this idea for a big band that's called... It's all sing songs about brown rice and stuff." And they went, "Oh yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing we want to have, you know." So I had this band called Sons of the Vegetal Mother, and I had people, Mike Rudd had guys from other bands, and it was really kind of wild, heavy,
acid rock,
but funny as well. No, it
wasn't acid.
Well, it was acid rock, but it was more. It had Zappa overtones. Okay. Frank Zappa was kind of edgy, you know, and kind of used all these chords that sounded big and tough and stuff, and good melodies and stuff. So we put on a few of those shows at TF Much Ballroom, and then having done that, in the band that we put together, I was working in a book warehouse, and I'd met Gary Young, who was, been a part of the Melbourne scene for quite a while, been a pop star a few times with Bobby and Laurie and all that, was out of, there'd been a big shake-up in the Melbourne scene. He was first time in his young life out of work. So he knew Wayne Duncan, and I knew Ross Hannaford, and so they were the core of the Sons of the Vegetal Mother. And I said, "There's that thing I'd really like to do, where we do, listen to this doo-wop music and that, and what about these songs I've written, you know?" We'd already played Eagle Rock with Sons of the Vegetal Mother, so we knew that. So we got the four of us in the back of this house I was renting, and had a rehearsal. And it sounded incredible straight away, you know, and I said, "Let's sing these songs, you know, the doo-woppy ones." And of course Hannaford and I, we were already on the same page. He was liking it anyway. So, and the other, you know, Gary and Wayne had come up through that instrumental music, through pop music, through mod to soul. They had a really good grounding too. So we had these four voices. Everyone could sing. We could sing the full-on doo-wop harmonies, plus we had Eagle Rock. So the guys from Let It Be came around to see how we're going. They walk in the room with Jerry Humphries from The Loved Ones, who was the MC down there, and they go, It was like, they couldn't believe what they were hearing. So next thing we're going to be on at the TF Much Ballroom, we play Sons of Vegetal Mother. We come out later. Some of Hannah's mates had made these stupid costumes for us, you know, and we put them on. We came out and we went, and the TF Marshall Ballroom was a place where there was a lot of wacky stuff going on, but the music tended to be kind of pretty intense. People would sit on the floor and kind of go, yeah, that's pretty wild, man, you know. And then, but Daddy Cool came on, played what we play. Instantly, everyone was like up, bouncing off the walls, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And of course, the state of mind we were in, which was like, you know, like, we just want to do what we want to do, you know, LSD, blah, 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 blah. Everyone else there was like that too. That's the kind of crowd we were playing to. So they got it straight away. Yep. They kind of got this, let's just throw off the bullshit and have a good time.
Where did the name come from?
Well, I just thought it up, but I thought it was and then they had this hippie neighbour guy, a young guy who was a student, and he said, "What are you doing, Ross?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I just started rehearsing this new band called Daddy Cool." He said, "Oh, you got that from the Diamonds?" I said, "No," because I knew the Diamonds were, you know, pop band from the 50s and 60s. And no, he said, yeah, they got this song called Daddy Cool. And it was the flip side, or both sides were a direct cover of original by the Rays, who were a fantastic black group. And I'd heard the Rays, you know, silhouette, silhouette, silhouette. Well, the flip side is Daddy Cool. Daddy Cool, Daddy Cool, you know. Now, Daddy Cool is a really interesting band because when I listen to the tracks now, or, for instance, you've got Gold Chisel, you've got Oils Ain't Oils, right? All these cover bands. There have been Daddy Cool cover bands, but they've never taken off. Why? Because they sound shit house, you know. They just don't sound any good, you know, because you can't, you know, people play Eagle Rock. It's like when people play Chuck Berry songs.
Oh, we've all had a go at Eagle Rock, don't you worry.
Yeah, and it sounds crappy, but most people can't play it.
No one can work the harmonies.
Yeah, the harmonies are pretty out there, but it's the way everything kind of
sits,
is loopy together that makes the whole thing work. You know,
that's very funny.
Yeah, and it sounds easy until you try to do it.
To do it, well, I know.
You hear the record, you go, "Wow, that's great. Let's have a go." And then I get people going, "How do you play that riff?" You know, they're trying to play it in weird positions and stuff, and there's a certain way of doing it, you know. But so
and that's your secret.
No, I'm happy to show people. I've shown people they still can't do it, you know.
Yeah.
Wrokdown.
Did you produce the albums?
No, I didn't. They were produced by Robbie Porter, who originally was Rob E.G., who was a child prodigy on Lap Steel, who had a whole lot of #1 hits in Australia. Took us in the studio. We recorded the album Daddy Cool in 2.5 days. And he took it, the best thing he did is, because he was based in America half the time, he took it to Hollywood and got this really good guy, John somebody, I can't remember his name, to mix it. And so that's one of the reasons it sounds so different from the other Melbourne music of the time, which tended to be recorded, we recorded at the same place, which was Armstrong's, but we didn't mix it there. And it was mixed by, like I said, by this American guy in LA, and it sounded like that. It was Australian Melbourne records at the time tended to use a lot of reverb and echoes and things, whereas the Daddy Cool sound was pretty much more like what Vanda and Young started doing with AC/DC. It's like raw, the actual sounds of the guitars and amps and that, and there's not a lot of reverb. You know, it's like
the real
you're
sound,
there, yeah.
We're building up now to, I guess, Mondo Rock, as you were saying. Daddy Cool had a bit of a...
Well, yeah, I broke up the band and I formed another band with Ross Hannaford called The Mighty Kong, but we did one album. You know, it didn't really kind of gel. And I was also, I think you would call it post-traumatic stress syndrome, of all the intensity of Daddy Cool, 2 years of just, you know, non-stop, kind of full-on and, you know, traumas and chaos and the pressure of, you know, the first taste of any kind of stardom at all, and it starts to mess with your head. Everyone's going, "Oh, you're so great, you're so great, you're so great," and you're going, "Oh, come on, give me a break," you know. It gives you, it's annoying, and it starts to mess with your head. So when we formed Mighty Kong, you know, I realised now I was actually a bit nuts, you know. So like Mighty Kong eventually broke up, and by that around the end, I discovered Skyhooks.
Skyhooks. I was just going to say. Stupid.
One of the last gigs we did was at Melbourne Uni, and the band that supported us was Skyhooks.
Were they already in the gear?
They had all crazy kind of like gold capes and things, but it was Freddie on drums and Greg on bass, Steve Hill on vocals.
That's right.
Bongo's brother Peter Starkey on guitar, and Peter Inglis, who I knew from Captain Matchbox Band, I think he used to be in. And I was going...
So there was no Red, no Bongo,
no,
and no Shirl?
No Shirl, no. But the songs were very funny, and that always appeals to me, you know, humour in music always appeals to me.
Yeah.
And so I went, gee, who wrote those songs, you know? And then Greg said, I did. I went, oh, we're going to have a talk. So went off and we worked out a deal where I'd be the music publisher, and I gave him an advance because I had some bread, you know, been successful. And so we could go off and buy a new amp and that. And then they started changing the lineup, and Red came in and Peter Starkey left, and so he got Bongo's his little brother joined. And so we started doing demos with Steve on vocals. Steve wasn't he was a good frontman, but he wasn't really a great singer, but it still kind of worked pretty well. And Shirl joined. I went to see him play, and it was like, holy moly, it's all finally come together. Yeah. We did some more demos. Mushroom was already in business. They started to get this feedback from crowds. They were they could all talk their asses off. They were all confronting, you know, cheeky. It was a perfect rock band, really, you know. And my band Daddy Cool had held the record for a locally produced rock album, which was like around 60,000, 70,000 copies, 1971. And this was 1974. And they went on in the space of a year to sell 250,000 albums. Well, that saved the record company, turned them in Skyhooks into massive stars, but it did a lot of other great things.
And it broke your record,
It broke my own record. I helped break my own record, which was
it's great.
A great way to go. So we kind of created history there. But the best thing and I really only thought about this in the last 10 years or so, because we were so successful with Skyhooks, it cashed up Mushroom, got them all of this positive energy with their distributor, Festival Records, and they were able to invest the money in signing up all these other great groups.
As you said, Split Ends.
Yeah, Split Ends got on the label. But there was all these other ones, like Sports, eventually Jojo Zapp and the Falcons. You know, there's a lot.
A whole lot.
You're right. So that wouldn't have happened if Skyhooks and myself hadn't done the good work and made a huge amount of money for Mushroom Records.
Michael's very nice to you, Ross.
He is. Michael has always been. He continues to be very nice to me. He's a very, very loyal sort of person.
He is, absolutely. We'll take a short break and be back soon.
Susie, darling.
Hey, Susie here. Miss Chrissy and I were out and about for Wrokdown TV. We wandered into Melbourne's Crown Casino, where we found the coolest rock chicks you will ever meet, Diva Demolition. Now, they have just supported Kiss, Thin Lizzy, and the Aerosmith tour is coming up, and they're going to be the support act there too. We had a great chat with them. They've got a new single out called Energy, and they are just awesome. Have a look at this. So tell us who you've been on stage tonight and you've just come back. Who was on the stage?
Well, after us were Thin Lizzy. Awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
And we came back just before the Kiss show.
The Kiss show.
But between that, you've forgotten Massive.
Massive for it?
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue. So what's it been like? What's the tour been like?
Well, we can't really actually judge it because it's been not real.
Yeah.
You know, we're Aussie chicks that usually play at the corner pub down at some dodgy town, and here we are supporting the best bands in the world. I don't know how to tell you how it is. It's unreal.
How did it happen? Like, how did you go from playing on a corner gig, and then now you're up on stage at Etihad Stadium tonight in Melbourne with Kiss, no other than Kiss? That is phenomenal.
A dream came true a year ago.
Yep.
Actually, less than a year ago.
It was less than that. This has been a whirlwind.
We played a gig with a legend of Australian rock, Doc Neeson.
Yeah.
He did 4 shows in Queensland,
Yep.
and we played every show with them as a support act. And they loved us. They loved our guts. And, you know, they went back to Sydney and told their people about us. And then we were back there in May. We played a show. And we were offered a record deal.
So tell me, who'd you listen to when you were growing up? Who inspired you?
I had a really bad education of Charlie Pride, Anne Murray and ABBA until I heard Led Zeppelin. And then my life changed.
Thank goodness for that.
And?
Oh,
I'm not talking about anything against any of those bands. They taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nothing
Shaz,
like
what
ABBA.
about you?
AC/DC.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Love those Akadaka? Yeah.
Absolutely. Back in Black album.
Yeah. So, album release, when's that?
We've got an album due. We've released a pre-release album for the Kiss tour.
Well, I'm going to wind it up, but I've got a radio show that perhaps the next time you're in town you'll come in and do some live sets and we can start flogging your album away. Thanks so
like
much
that.
for your time.
No, thank
We're
you.
really, really proud to have some rock chicks that, you know, the world is going to see.
Wrokdown.
So around that time, I'd formed a record company with Glenn Wheatley, who'd just come back from overseas, and he'd learned a few things. And we formed a thing called Oz Records. And then I got sick of that and thought,
Did you sign in anyone that really had a...
Well, we signed Jojo Zepp.
Oh, great.
We didn't have any really big successes. And then Glenn was looking after Little River Band. That was his main thing. Outside, they weren't on our label. And they started to take off in a real big way. So his interests were over there, and my interest started to... I don't like being an administrator. I want to get back on stage. So I formed a group called Mondo Rock. Now, at first it was just like a part-time kind of thing. I'd play a gig here and there. And then it started to get more and more. And then we signed a deal with EMI and we put out an album. That took about 3 years, you know. And then I decided that lineup wasn't working, the label wasn't working, the management wasn't working. So I threw it all up in the air. I still wanted to keep it going, but I formed a new one, a new Mondo Rock, and that was the one with Eric McCusker and Paul Christian, James Black, and JJ Hackett, and we put out an album called Chemistry, and that put us on the map. So then we had we had a lot of successes. Come Said the Boy, Cool World. So Mondo Rock is actually the full flowering of what I'd been doing. You know, well written, serious,
Fabulous song.
properly produced, and we had a long career. You know, it went for 12 years or so of recording. So
And the band was sort of, this is a day, but sort of ageless. It sort of, you could put it out anywhere now, and you sort of wouldn't really be able to say, well, that was the 70s or the 80s.
In some respects, like that. I mean, I think the best example of that is Come Said the Boy, which still gets played all the time on the radio, gets downloaded all the time. It's by far our biggest track, you know, and it still sounds pretty good. Mondo Rock broke up in 1990. I had already put out a solo album in 89 called Dark Side of the Man, had that song Bed of Nails on it. But rather than just started keeping on the road, I found I had a lot of requests to write with other people. I started writing with Barnsey, you know, did a bit more with John Farnham. And I got into this whole thing of, I'd never really written with people outside the band before. So I got into this thing where I started to do that, and I was more working in the background most of the 90s. And then towards the end of the 90s, I got married again and started to have a couple of kids. And I thought, well, got to support them, I better get out on the road. And so that's what I've been doing. And I've been releasing, you know, so I've
Keep
released
those kids in that college.
Released a couple of solo albums and have had an extremely good time touring around, and a lot of great things happened, like you know, the Long Way to the Top tour and then the Countdown tour. In amongst all of the non-stop tour that I do on my own. I've got a permanent band which I call the Peaceniks at the moment, named after my last album, I Come in Peace. And we work, you know, all the time. I've got an acoustic outfit called Ross Wilson Quartet. So between the big gigs and the little gigs
and big band, you've done a few big band.
Yeah, I've done a few. That's not my favourite thing though.
No, I know, but
I like. It's really good having a pretty stable lineup of really good players. You know, with that, they know all my cues. We've got this intuitive thing going on, and you know, they sound really good. And we play big to little gigs. We play festivals. We play all over the place, and you know, I'm in a really good spot. And I look back and I go, well, you know, I'm actually more successful now than I was back in the beginning. You might be more famous, but you're not actually making that much bread, you know.
Yeah.
But now there's all these strings of kind of weaved together. You've got production, you know, writing, performing, you know, all of that stuff.
Producing.
All
As you said,
people
production,
license you things for TV shows and film is like huge these days, you know. Like out of the blue, this one hit wonder that I'd done with my first wife Pat, Bop Girl, which hadn't been heard of for years, got used as the theme song for the Lara Bingle, you know, like reality show. Like these are the surprises.
So you're off again.
These are the surprises that sort of come out of nowhere, and you go, oh yeah, fantastic! That's finally come home to roost.
You've got another surprise coming up in the form of a tour with James Rain, Daryl Braithwaite.
Yep.
Don't Let Me Leave Jojo.
Yeah, Joe Camilleri.
Yourself.
Myself and James Rain. I said him, yeah. 4 guys, and we'd known each other for quite a long time. We all live around Melbourne. And we get on really well. And insurance company, Apia, wanted to brand themselves on a music event. And they came up with the idea. Yeah.
Good luck with the tour.
Thank you.
You were
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
As I said, the national anthem should be Eagle Rock. Ross Wilson, thanks for being on Wrokdown.
Thanks everybody.